We are back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game Worn Hockey Podcast, episode 43. A whole lot of things going on, slightly bigger group today. Welcome, Matt McGonnell. How we doing, Matt?
Real well. How are you guys doing?
You got Zoom set up. You messaged me, got that all figured out. I know this wonderful technology that brings us all together can also be a real pain in the ass.
My hamster wasn't up to speed, but I figured it out.
We got a lot of things to touch on. I'm glad you're here. I know you'll give us a lot of good input, so we do appreciate it. Wanted to touch on first, Paul. You're the keeper of the info, and I should have mentioned it before we actually started recording. Is I've been lax at looking, but upcoming expos. Do we have anything soon?
Good question. And I did not look beforehand. I know we have upgrade coming up in July, is it? They've announced the official migrate date. I know there's a Winnipeg one, I believe, in the summer. Wade, you have one in October, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I know Southern Jersey has the dates. I need to update my website on that.
The Migrate Expo is July 13th of this year.
Thank you.
19th annual for them.
And then lots of exciting stuff going on next year. But for the rest of this year, I'm not sure of anything other than Migrate. And apologies to anyone hosting an expo if we missed it this week.
Yeah, and if you've got them, shoot me the date, shoot Paul some of the dates so we can get them, because Paul can update his site. Want to make sure we stay on top of those. We do love plugging them and getting people. Or again, if you're thinking about trying to do some kind of one in your area, reach out to Wade or any of us with, hey, I'm trying to do this. Here's these ideas. What do you guys think? Stuff like that. Wanted to touch on a post Johnny CFAM put out earlier today. Again, research and don't always trust the team. He had two high-end Lightning jerseys that he matched way outside of dates, including being worn into the next year.
Wow.
So, he put pictures and showed the set tags and the photo matches, but congratulations for Johnny doing some deep research. But while teams seem to somewhat do well with that, they don't always, and players have weird requests where sometimes they need a spare. So keep a close eye on that stuff, and maybe that's why when a team sells a set of jerseys and you don't see your player in it, stuff like that happens. So
we just recently saw that with the Blues auction.
Yes.
Aaron Turcotte jersey. They listed, we obviously didn't see the set tag, but he didn't play for the Blues the season that they said that was from. So, I mean, there's some interesting stuff there, and do your homework.
As always, the Minnesota Wild, if you're a Wild fan, call the store. And I'm sorry I didn't pull up the number to do it. But if you call the Wild store, they have loaded up their racks full of game-worn jerseys. Call them. You may have to call them multiple times. I know on the Wild page, people were bitching that it would be ringing for 20 minutes. I don't know how many phone lines they have or how much staff. I'm guessing not a lot, so be patient. But start at 300 and go up to 10K for a Fleury, 5K for a Kaprizov. I know people have got some good deals. All the reverse retro I think I saw posted were sold. So if you do want a Wild shirt, make sure you go get that. As of 7:15 this evening, the Connor Bedard jersey has 3 hours and 49 minutes left to go, by the way. So we'll touch on the price again before we end the show. Currently at $32,100. Thanks to Sean Sullivan, he reached out to the Hawks asking for, because it's stitched into a frame and all this kind of stuff. And we talked about this last week. There, you can't see the set stamp. There's no details in the auction, but supposedly, if we trust what they're telling us, it was worn January to March. And Sean breaks this down more on the Blackhawks page and a link to the auction, but about 7 games, but very little wear. I mean, he could have worn them one period in 7 games. We don't know, but it could be 6 to 7 games at all. So, like I said, does close in 3 hours and 48 minutes. What do you guys think the final price will be? Do you think it's pretty close to what it is, or do you think it jumps a lot in the last 3 hours and 48 minutes?
I suspect you're going to see it jump a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think it jumped too. I think last week or when we taped last time, I think I estimated. My guess was somewhere around 40, a little over 40.
Paul,
A- As we know with auctions, you just need two guys who really want it. So I'm sure it's going to jump. The question is it jump to 40 or well above 40?
Yeah.
And
not you, Matt. What's your prediction?
I'm not a big fan of auctions. Everyone that knows me either likes me or hates me for my opinions on the auctions, but I think you're throwing away money on something that you don't know about. I think it's not geared towards any of us. I have to count the six of us. I don't think it's geared towards any of us that collect in terms of wanting a piece of game worn memorabilia that we would have in our house. I think you're paying for that frame, that piece of net that was probably run over by the Zamboni. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I feel bad for whoever does get it because I think there's going to be some level of disappointment if they ever go to move it.
Yeah, I
And
think
do
that's
they,
a jersey. The presentation of that jersey was definitely designed for a non-game use collector. I mean, I think the target audience of those. I mean, I think there's 3 or 4 of them. I was kind of looking. I'm actually in the auction right now. I think that there's 4 of them listed, and I think those are designed not for the game worn collector. I think that those were framed, and that whole thing was done in a thought process of a corporate type of thing, kind of what Matt's leaning towards. I don't think we're definitely the target for them on those.
so on the framing, did we ever determine if they pinned that in there? Because it looked like it had pins going through the jerseys.
they did some
Right?
kind of like the fishing line type stuff,
It looks
supposedly.
stitched in.
I'm
It looks
sorry?
like stitched in around the shoulders
Okay.
is what it looks like to me.
And I
It
will
looks like-
say this post, I think I even said it last week, Wade, with you and I, but I don't remember, is Sean Sullivan posted 3 days ago, and I'll just read his post really quick. Said, went to the Friday game and took a look at the Bedard up close. Talking to the guy, he said they're very aware that they basically effed up in framing these. And if you can believe Rando guy at the auction table, they won't be doing it again with gamers, but we'll see. They were doing a Foligno and Vlasic. If people look at the auctions, I don't know if they've updated the pictures, but people caught the other ones were photoshopped. And the reason those were photoshopped is because they were still at the framers at the time the auction started. And just for reference, 1 week ago, it was not at 9,100.
Yeah,
So-
they're all stitched in. Like you can see the stitch marks in certain spots. So it's what they did is they flattened it, they boarded it, and then they stitched it to the bottom mat piece.
And Sean did. I'm scrolling down through here, catching all the notes. Says, have heard from 2 people that have asked about the glue. The team said the framer, team said framer did not use glue, but used fabric tacker along with the stitching, which that's concerning as hell.
Yeah,
This color.
yeah.
So I'll be curious if somebody wins this, if they yank it out of the frame or if they leave it, because I mean, you don't have any idea if there's wear to the front. You lose so much by getting it without being able to see half the damn thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a big risk. I mean, for 30, I mean, that's why I said I don't know. They definitely didn't gear it to a game use collector by doing that. But there's a big risk in that because like you can't tell. You can only see half the jersey.
So we'll see. And Paul, thank you for doing research while I'm sitting here talking, for going back on the wild topic. To call the Hockey Lodge, the phone number 651-726-8254. Of course, you can Google it. It's on their website. But Paul, thanks for pulling that up here. It saves me some work later.
Taking a plug for a future show. If you mention like dirty laundry, you get 10% off your order or something.
Yeah. Oh,
How
what?
about that? You know,
Matt, somebody will try and do that tomorrow, and they'll get really pissed when they don't get it.
it was Wade Hampton's idea.
The Hockey Lodge will go, who the hell is that? We'll send them a copy of the show, see what they say. Is there anybody that listens from the Hockey Lodge? Shoot me a message. We'll see what kind of deal we can make.
Are we going to visit our sponsors now? I mean, I think that's Mitch, but
Mitch?
Yes. Hey, yeah, dude. I keep forgetting to wear the shirt because I usually don't switch out from work because of my wild shirts. Hey, this at least has hockey masks on it.
There you go.
Jason Friday the 13th hockey masks and blood all over it, but it's still hockey, sort of. Yeah, cannot forget Mitch with the drink your face off line of home accessories, the puck bottle opener, the t-shirts. We need to get him, Paul, and of course he's going to kill me for saying that. Get some old shark sticks and turn them into the grilling tools and bottle openers and stuff. I've made some of those myself, and they look really sharp when they're done.
Yeah, come out nice.
And if you guys ever get tired of the Zamboni, you just cut it up in a bunch of pieces and sell pieces like keychains and stuff. Own the official Shark Zamboni.
We were actually discussing what are we going to do with the Zamboni today. We got to move it eventually because it's still down there at the Sharks, and we'll figure it out shortly. But
Make a planner out of it.
Do a cross country tour to just drive to all the different rinks at 6 miles an hour at a time.
I can't even imagine the propane bill on that. So.
Oh God. You just have to have a propane truck follow you everywhere. Classic Auctions closes April the 30th. There's a lot of good things in that, and some things still seem to, at this point, have low prices depending on what you're looking at. Has anything caught anybody's eye from that, or surprising with descriptions or wear or anything? It's a couple blues things, but nothing I can afford, unfortunately.
I'll keep an eye on the Bork Avs. I'll be curious to see where that lands.
It's interesting pieces in there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff again. And I just recently got a message from Game Warren. It looks like they're hunting consignments right now as well. So something from them sounds like will be popping up sooner than later. But yeah, some nice blue stuff in there. Some other cool stuff. Some of the Barry collection stuff is neat. Always interesting to see where that stuff lands.
Yeah, the older Rangers from Barry's collection are just incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing that I collect, but those, someone's going to be very happy landing some of those. I'm
rare stuff.
Yeah, very. For me, no Michigan stuff, so I'm avoiding it. As far as I know, unless something shows up, it every time I look at that auction, especially on like the last day, there's something I always seem to notice, which I missed for the first 2-3 weeks. So hopefully that shows up.
Or if nothing does, then your wallet's safe for a bit.
Exactly.
Let's see. The other, of course, who can't forget, and there'll be two parts to this. Who can't forget the last night of the Coyotes after their game, won their last game as the Coyotes.
Well, it's a pause. It's just a pause.
God. Yeah. It's a crap fest is what it is. I don't know how you can hand that guy another. Of course, you're going to hand him a bunch of money real soon. Sure. But unless
I think what it turns out, I think the thing that it looks like to me is obviously, they're basically saying it's a new franchise in Salt Lake. I did some looking and reading today. So they're not taking the record books of the Coyotes with them. They're taking the players and the organization aspect of it, but not the records. That's going to stay in Arizona. And I guess Arizona's kind of on pause and has a 5-year window to build a stadium and come back in. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think as game worn collectors, it's interesting to see what comes out. The last couple expansions in the NHL or new teams have had some really, really neat stuff in Vegas and Seattle. So the bar is pretty high as far as, what the jerseys are going to look like, what the logo is going to look like.
What the team name is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's here as a collector, it's always fun to see what's fresh. It will be interesting to see if Arizona can erect a monument in the next 5 years. So,
and the question is where does that stuff go? Because I know some of like the specialty practice jerseys were sold through GiveSmart, but I don't know where the regular jerseys of the Coyotes are sold.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting because, I mean, obviously the question of ownership will become interesting there because the franchise itself and the players and organization-wise, but as far as the stuff, I mean, who owns that stuff and where does it end up?
Could it be one of the bulk people that buy basically all the equipment and if they get all the jerseys in that too, that will be insane.
Yeah.
Or do they sell them?
I'm sure somebody who does that, if they haven't already called, is probably working those angles as we speak.
You remember when the Atlanta Thrashers went under and they had jerseys come out? Was it 10-11 was their last year? I remember there was a whole set of jerseys that just vanished.
Really? Well, didn't now Migrate had them.
Migrate
end.
had like set 2 and 3, but I've
Okay.
never. I'm pretty sure set 2 and 3, but I've never seen. I think a set 1 in any of them. I'm almost positive that's it. I know my friend Dan, probably the only Thrashers collector I know, went to a game in Toronto and saw Nick Antropoff and took a picture of the jersey, and it was torn on the back, and he pre-ordered it through MyGray, and the jersey he got was not that jersey.
Really?
And it was supposed to be like a set 1, and I'm not sure what the mess up was, but or maybe he didn't pre-order it. I know he reached out to them to get it, and they didn't have it. And there's always been speculation out there of where those jerseys went, and I wonder what will happen. Like you said, with Arizona, are they going to be in a box somewhere? Are they going to come out? They're going to try to liquidate them? It's too much to probably speculate at this point.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I mean, in the past, there's so many stories of all that stuff over the years in so many different sports. So it'll be interesting to see where that stuff ends up, or if it got thrown in a dumpster because somebody didn't know better.
Yeah, it was nice to see what they did after the game, though. They did get jerseys they had on to some of their most loyal fans, which I thought was a nice gesture.
Yeah,
So,
that's a nice gesture.
So I always have a question on the jersey off the back. I mean, a lot of teams do it, and I don't know anyone who's ever won one. But I know, like with the Sharks, when they go and do it, they leave the ice, come back, and supposedly they're new jerseys that they switch into that. I have no idea. I saw last night that Coyotes left the ice, after a little bit. So I don't know if it just came out in the same jerseys, the ones soaked in sweat.
So Sunday, the Blues did a jersey off their back night. In one of their Give Smart auctions, they auctioned off 2 spaces for it, and they sold for $2,300 and $2,500.
And you didn't know who you were getting. It was still you were just
it was a random draw at the thing. They gave them to season ticket holders and special fans. I know somebody that did win one. It was tagged specifically for jersey off the back, and it was they went off the ice and then they came back on the ice. It was wet and worn. So hold on for a second. I've got a barking dog.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah.
And I've seen some teams where those set stamps are that way. Is it specifically done for that? But other teams I know I've seen in the past where it's their set 3 or whatever, and they've worn it 6-8 games and they're beat to hell. So I think it's team to team how does that way.
Yeah. So the Blues, like I said, the Blues did it. The Blues did it, and it has a special Libby tag in it, and it says jersey off the back and the night of the game. I actually own a couple of them from previous seasons. Like I said, the Blues do it kind of weird. I think they pick and choose who they give it to based upon ticket reps and people in their organization, which is their prerogative, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely a 1-game jersey. Pretty neat the way they do it. Some teams, I know people have said there's been complaints of, will they leave the ice? Am I getting the actual jersey you wore that night kind of thing?
Yeah, the Bruins have been doing that for a long time now, where the last home game, they don't leave the ice. They have people selected to come out and, win the jersey. And I probably much like Wade, I'm sure a lot of those winners have been predetermined based on loyalty to the team, et cetera, which is fine, I guess. But yeah, they've had the one game jerseys they've been giving away.
That same way then, Frosty. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And going back just a minute too on how Arizona could do things. I will say with the folding of the now I just blanked out on the team and the jersey sitting 6 feet away. The Growlers, the East Coast Hockey League Growlers, when they folded 2 days later, jerseys started going up on their page for sale, all their game jerseys. And they put a couple out, like a couple types of them out. And within 3 or 4 or 5 days, they'd gone through all the different types they had available and sold them to everybody. I don't know if Arizona will do an auction style, if they'll sell them for somebody else to get rid of, or
Arizona's got that team store. So then the question becomes, how long is that team store going to stay open and available? And then, that's an interesting question. I'm
And
sure, like I said, I'm sure.
Yeah. Do they do an end of the year equipment sale?
Yeah. I mean, what are they, they're going to have to, they're obviously not packing up all that stuff and taking it to Salt Lake.
No, none of those colors will quite work unless
Yeah,
that's part of the ownership deal. But why would you want to move all that crap to Utah?
Yeah.
Serves no purpose.
I'm sure the equipment guys will keep what they need to keep as backup and as whatever, especially considering some of the concerns people have had about Fanatics being able to supply teams with stuff. So I'm sure they're not going to go out there empty-handed, but I'm sure they're going to be choosy on what they take.
Well, and then that's the other question that just crossed my mind as you're talking about this, Wade, is with the Fanatics changeover. Now you've Fanatics, has been working on the designs for all the other teams. Are you now in the oh crap mode? We've got to get these designed quickly, or does the ownership in Utah pretty much know it was happening for a while and had already been working with Fanatics to get a design done? They may not have the name, but they may already have some colors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already halfway through April. You've got to have those by early September.
Earlier than that. I mean, you got
I would agree.
You got to have those.
You want them by
the end
training
of
camp.
July. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those players are going to be somewhere skating by the end of July, August, and then they're going to be on, so something's got to be somewhere within 4 or 5 months, 4 months.
They'll have to have it before the draft.
Well, yeah, that's true. You're right. That's true.
It's an interesting question. It's going to be, it's going to be fun to see how they pull that off, I guess. But yeah, definitely fun. I mean, and as we've talked about on here, I think the equipment sales are going to be interesting. I think to go back to it, I think the Minnesota thing is a precursor to what you're going to see on a lot of these teams. Minnesota obviously said, "Hey, we got all these jerseys. What the hell are we going to do with them? Let's start putting them in our team store and get rid of them." So,
and they started that earlier this year when they were cleaning out the closets and dropped a bunch of stuff super cheap. So they started very early in the season. And it may have even been before the season started, if my memory for time is correct.
Yeah, they had an equipment sale last year with very cheap game-worn jerseys.
Yeah.
Last summer, I guess it would have been. I'm not exactly sure when. And then jerseys have been trickling up there at the kiosk, the occasional ones from this year too.
Yeah.
My understanding is everything that's being offered by the Wild right now do not include 23-24.
Okay. So
they're
clearing the coffers.
Yeah. I mean, remember the Wild were really strange on how they did their game-worn stuff. For ages, no one could get anything. Then 6, 7, 8 years ago, they released a ton of jerseys. They had them on their State of Hockey website. And then around COVID time, all that stopped. And nothing was, or minimal jerseys were released. And now, they're just bringing up boxes and boxes of them for the sale there at, what is it? State of Hockey store? No, Hockey Lodge. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so much stuff. It's just, but again, I think we're going to roll into every team's going to have a lot of stuff to get rid of. I mean, this is going to be an interesting offseason with that.
If I can go back to the Arizona thing real quick, don't you think? I'm not the biggest Gary Bettman fan. I don't dislike him like a lot of fans do. I think he's done a lot of good things for the for the sport of hockey. But don't you think, with his knowledge and expertise, that there was things moving behind the scenes long before what has been discussed already, and maybe this was the final quote press release of what had been in motion for months? So maybe the Utah thing was secretly being done and there's a design out there or whatnot already, and that the jerseys might even, maybe not made, but a concept or plan has been put in place.
I'm still a firm believer that these teams have a plan for where they're going. I don't think the fans are picking the name and the logo. I think that's a little deeper than that. So you'd have to assume that if this franchise had an assumption that they were getting a team they obviously had a marketing team who had already started coming up with color palettes and things like that. So, yeah, you'd have to assume that there's a head start beyond just a drop today.
Yeah, and I mean, a year ago when some of the stuff fell through for the possible building of the new rink and stuff, the writing on the wall was that far back, and there were
Yeah.
rumors from the Seattle guy that he was going to try and make a move. So yeah, it's a lot of, I mean, and it got leaked out about a month ago that it was almost a definite thing, and some people kind of blew, oh, it's not going to happen, and then it fell into place exactly as the insiders said it would. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's the wheels have been in motion for a while, and you're right. There's been some kind of discussion and planning for it, because it does take time to do that stuff. But we'll have to see how that shakes out and when those things start getting released. A
Here's
couple of
another good
things.
question. Oh, whoa, sorry. One other thing is the
Yeah.
Islanders have been holding on to jerseys now since Lou's had them for a while. So with this Adidas change, does somebody say to Lou, like, hey, you got to get rid of all these? You know, they've got what, probably
They have
6
a
or 8
lot.
years of stuff that hasn't popped up. So, you know, if you're an Islanders fan, it's could be a chance of a lifetime summer too.
You can sure hope.
Yeah.
I mean, well, as different people attend equipment sales or different things, shoot us pictures, shoot us messages, let us know about it. Or if you want to come on the show and talk about the one you went to and what you saw, we'd love to have you on, because I want to try and cover a lot of these, especially this year because of this transition, to see how, if things were handled different than if you've gone them in past ones, or if it was just kind of the same. So we'll see what happens with that. Two other things I want to touch on before we get into Frosty and the big discussion with Boston is an interesting, and it caught me even off guard yesterday, is the Blues and Hawks for the Winter Classic this year is New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
The 4:00 game on New Year's Eve. I was a little surprised by that, because it's still a I mean, it's still during the week, but we'll just kind of go around the horn. Frosty, what do you think about them going to New Year's Eve? It's always been on New Year's Day since we started this.
Well, I think there's probably a couple things at play. They're probably looking to see, use it as an experiment to see if it gains a little bit more TV interest potentially.
Yeah.
Certainly, New Year's Eve tends to have a little bit more of a festivity around it than New Year's Day, because the hangover tends to affect people on the New Year's Day. So I think it's probably just an experiment from the NHL perspective to see if that kind of reinvigorates some more interest in the game.
I think it's that, and I'm going to throw this out there. A couple of the other pro sports leagues have started to do stuff. I know the NBA's tried to do a big New Year's Day game thing. So maybe they're just trying to get away from NBA and get a day that's a little separate. Maybe get a little traction on another day that's a little bit more TV open.
And it's a big college football day.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's but this year I didn't watch the Winter Classic at all, but mainly because we were at the Rose Bowl, which we would not miss for anything. But yeah, it's you have so many events going on New Year's Day. It makes perfectly good sense. Interesting, it's at 4:00, so it will be mostly a night game, which will be nice.
Yeah.
It could be hell too in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago by 5:00 will be dark just like here in St. Louis. By 5:30 it'll be nighttime.
So and I can't wait to see the jersey designs for that, because that'll be a fun one. One final thing before we get into the big topic, and I'd shared pictures and some early stuff with Wade and Paul, but due to some online shopping, I found a bunch of envelopes that were, all I saw in the picture is they were envelopes, had different NHL logos on them. You could tell they were old, because they had, like, I saw a bunch of Blues ones that all had different year logos on them. Won this auction, I get them. It's 111 different envelopes going from 1973 to 1986. There's a guy in New Jersey, and every envelope except for one, his name and address is blocked out, and his name and address is on one of them. I found him on Facebook. I'm actually going to reach out. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, and get the backstory. But what it looks like he did is he would write all the teams every year, asking for, be it
Pocket
schedules,
schedules.
be it the how to order T-shirts and things like that. Anything they would send them. And I have Nordique stuff. I have early Jet stuff. Not many teams am I missing of in that time frame, but some of them sent the Blackhawks. There's some mid-70s the schedules, and they did little like postcard size like player cards that they gave out. So I've got there's a Bobby Hull in there and different things. They're not signed, unfortunately, but it was cool to go through all these, and it took me, because I photographed every piece in there, because some of them had 5, 6, 7 pieces in there. Hell, it took me 8 hours to do that. But it was cool to kind of go through this hockey history. And then some, it was like, here's how you order tickets. And looking at the season ticket prices for lower bowl in some of these places, like $4.25 for lower bowl tickets, or upper bowls $9 a game. Jerseys for the mid 80s, a couple of ones that listed those in there were $40-50. The
the
Blues ones,
one.
yeah, was interesting because it said, I'm sorry, we don't sell jerseys, but gave the name and the phone number, and it's two of the alumni that were running a store at the time selling them. But it was just to go through to see their stuff. I mean, the Montreal has a Montreal forum on those, and the old Red Wing stuff. It was so cool. And I promise here soon I'm going to get all that linked up online so people can kind of look through and see some of the pictures. I just kind of took some of the best angles of different things and shot pictures of the scheduling. Some of them have stickers, original stickers still in there, bumper stickers or window stickers or whatnot. Like I said, from the mid 70s on, and it was a really cool time span to look through. So just kind of a really cool pickup and a neat find, but I will share those out shortly. Just something different. So if you're out there looking for hockey things, you may find random stuff. Like I said, I'm going to reach out to the guy, see if he'll talk to me, because I'd love to hear the backstory with this. But the big topic that we wanted to touch on, since we've already rambled for 40 minutes on everything else, is wanted to welcome back Tom Frosty, a big, huge Boston collector. And of course, I've seen you commenting a lot every time a Boston does another release of whatever they're putting out. How's it gone for you? What have you seen? Now that we're to the end of the season, you guys are going to the playoffs, but how do you think it's been so far?
Well, I mean, we've talked about this even going back before the season started, that it felt like a money grab on the part of the Bruins, right? Let's get rid of Migray so that we get every last nickel out of these sales. And that's sort of how it's been approached, right? They had the first series that went up and went on their site. And it was one of those things where you had to get on the site at exactly 10 a.m. And if you were lucky, you got your favorite player's jersey in your cart, and you checked out before somebody else did. So it was kind of a race. And the prices were pretty high. And the Bruins immediately said, oh, wow, we sold out the whole set in 5 minutes for these crazy prices. We immediately get to go to auction because we can't leave any money on the table, right? We want to get as much as we can. So they rush out using some type of cheap auction software that you didn't even have to pre-register to bid. Geez, how could that possibly go wrong? And it did go wrong, and it went so wrong that they had to cancel the auction in the middle and kind of pull everything down.
More like a complete flipping disaster.
Yeah, it was
Crashed harder
awful.
than Princess Diana's car.
Oh man.
Sorry.
So anyway, their answer to that was, all right, well, since we don't want to pay money for a real auction software, we're gonna just jack up the prices from set 1 to set 2, and they did. I mean, goalie jerseys that were $2,000 in set 1, that same goalie for set 2 was now $3,000, and with each subsequent release, so they've gone through a couple now. Prices have gone up. Stars have gone up astronomically. I think they started Brad Marchand, Pasternak around 5,000 with the set one, which was steep, but for a star, you could talk yourself into it. And in the last round, I think they were at 7,500. And these are not jerseys that necessarily had any special, statistics or a moment attached to them. Still quite pricey. They did have, I think Brad Marchand got his 400th goal or 400th game, whichever one it was. I don't know. And they sold that as a one-off for 10,000, just that one jersey. So the prices are crazy, but the thing is, for the most part, they've been selling them. So, as much as you want to argue about it, I've always, every year, I always get one of each goalie. And if there's a new captain, I'm going to try to get his jersey. So I've contributed to the problem, I guess, by purchasing some of the jerseys myself. But where I see the issue really coming to bear is going to be in some of these subsequent sets, when people like myself have already kind of bit their tongue and paid more than they ever thought they would for a specific jersey. They're not going to want 2 and 3 of the same. So I think you're going to start seeing jerseys sit for sale for longer periods of time. And we're starting to see that a little bit. But I think what's happening is you're probably seeing a lot of the longtime Bruins collectors getting really turned off to the point where they may just decide not to go after any of the new stuff anymore and just start looking backwards to see what might be available. Jerseys that we all know. They used to have a lot more wear. And even some of the older ones, even some of the older all-stars, they're less expensive to buy than some of these 1 and 2 game jerseys that we're seeing just hitting the shelves now.
And that's the big thing is as you look back is some of those guys that have been around the Bruins and, like you said, would have jerseys just shredded, and the wear that us older guys like. Okay, go buy one of those, because at the end of the day, too, that's in most cases, again, you can't call everything, but that's probably going to hold its value way better than anything current.
Yeah, I think with the 100th season is unique for the Bruins, right? So they weren't dumb about deciding what year they were going to go after trying to bring everything in house. It would have been nice for them maybe to practice on year 99 before 100. That's debatable and not really too debatable. So I feel like they've kind of got their golden egg this year, right? And the question is, how are they going to handle it going forward? And have they alienated enough of the longtime collectors where they don't come back? So it'll be interesting to see where things go from here with them.
Outside of the crazy auction, and everybody was talking about that, has anybody else had any major issues with, other than making sure you get on it, and have, like the Blues tell us every Friday at 10 a.m. they do some kind of drop, be it jerseys, be it equipment, be it whatever it is. 10 a.m. on Friday is the thing. Do the Bruins put that out ahead of time saying, hey, on this date, these are coming?
They have, for the most part, with set releases. They'll let you know a day or two in advance that at 10 a.m. they're going to drop the whole set. And it literally is a race. It's one of those things where, Jeremy Swayman's jersey is shown up, you can add it to your cart. But if you're not the first one to get your credit card in and click checkout, you're out of luck.
And we talked early on before they started, as kind of having some ideas of how this was going to go. And then that first set dropped and seeing prices, and we've all been shell shocked, but you're right. The thing is most of those have sold, but as those sets go on, like people like yourself and that have gotten what they want, what they need, are now out of the game. So I'll be curious to see how quickly those jerseys kind of start stacking up out there and they have to start cutting prices.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jason, because I haven't seen anything that's sat on their site and them go back and modify the price to bring it down. At least, I don't watch their site every day, so I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I haven't seen that yet. the pieces that I really miss, right? So we may have complained somewhat about how Migrate did things in the past, those of us on the Bruins side of things, but I always felt like there was a relationship that you built with them. You could kind of put your name in a hat where you had first dibs at a certain player, even if you had to wait a year for you to come to the top of that list. What's really missing is there's no personal relationship there at all. At least I haven't seen it. And, I'd like to think I'd been one of the people spending a good amount of money there. Yeah, I'd like to see some of that. And you had that with Migrate. You could pick up the phone, call Barry, call Dave, and say, hey, look, I'm trying to get this, or this, and they'd look out for you. That piece is definitely missing now, and that's unfortunate.
And I think we've seen that with a lot of teams where it's especially when they've had a transition from Migrate to in-house, and I know some teams have accommodated that the best they could, but then the person doing that leaves and all that's out the window. And yeah, I kind of wish that there would be a wish list, a personalization, something, not just, yeah, we'll take your money and we don't give a damn who you are and we'll never really talk to you again.
Yeah, and that's the feel, right? Is it's all just about the money, and they're not trying to build relationships or connections with some of the longtime collectors that we all reached out early on offering our assistance. That wasn't there. So yeah, I'm curious to see if the longtime collectors that have been turned off with some of the ongoings this year come back next year, or if they're just going to continue the same practice going forward long term, and maybe just it ends up being a money grab continually, and you'll see people start to drop off the new stuff altogether.
And I did reach out after I talked to the guy initially early in the year before the program launched, asked me to reach out to him again right after the first of the year. I did and did not hear anything. So I'm going to try it one more time. Once get through the playoffs, once the season's wrapped up, to hopefully, I would love to have him on, but maybe, I mean, we've been honest in the talks about what's been posted, what the problems there have been. It's not like we're bashing them. I won't bash any team, but if things aren't going well or things look bad, I'll just say it. There's no reason to hold that stuff back, because it doesn't do us any good to say, to hold back not talking about the problems when, yes, you're going to have speed bumps the first year of doing this. It's a learning curve, like the auction stuff. Because when that got put out there and everybody's like, holy crap, you don't need a credit card. You don't have to verify anything. And things went just crazy. I can't believe that even happened, because you would think anybody would go, wait a minute, we have to verify these people somehow, because otherwise they're going to bid just be crazy.
Yeah. Well, it did, and we know that definitely happened.
Yes.
So
anybody else, the thoughts on this, or thought from the outsider perspective, not buying the Boston jerseys? I know, Paul, you watch some of the stuff how it gets posted, or look at the Wayback Machine. Have you been surprised with any of it?
Not really. And I'm glad they're doing mostly full sets. I would feel sorry. Well, not sure right where it is. If someone's trying to get 2 jerseys, you better check out twice rather than put both in your cart, check out, and get rejected because one's sold. Because by the time you recheck out again, the second jersey might be sold. I kind of hate things like that where it's a sprint where you have to get them, and you might not even. In the case of the goalies, is it possible they wore 2 jerseys in that set? And Tom, are you going to get the right one that you want? If there were certain games you were looking for. I do miss not being able to pre-order. Migrate was great on that. I think the other thing we're looking at, it seems like it wasn't just the game-worn jerseys, pucks, and everything, but they did a whole retail thing around it too. On the website there, it seems like they have a lot of T-shirts and stuff for sale. So I don't know if the Bruins did a revamp of that, of their regular retail stuff for online when they went to this model or not. But because I know the Sharks kind of did. They when they went, the company that's handling them now, they started their website is mostly all retail items, t-shirts, sweatshirts, whatever, and not the game worn stuff. And I have no idea if the Bruins went that route or if they always had something
They've
there.
always had the quote pro shop site where you can get souvenir type stuff. The Authentics component was an add-on this year, so that was new.
So the pro shop was in place before, so they added that on.
Correct. Yeah.
Interesting.
And they take the items that don't sell in that 5 to 10 minute window, and they will bring them down to the pro shop. They've got a little corner in the pro shop where they have some sticks, some gloves, some helmets, skates, and sweaters that haven't sold online. So they bring them down there for hopefully the folks that bring a big wallet into the pro shop on game day. They might want to walk home with a stick or a sweater.
And some of that equipment pricing, the skates and some of the practice jerseys and stuff, those do seem to have sat and are sitting at, especially, and I know the wording gets a little rough because they're putting a lot of stuff as issued because they don't know, but looking at it when you can see no wear and they want $6,000-7,000 for a practice jersey, come on. That seems a little excessive to me.
That's
Yeah,
why
I
they're sitting
agree.
there. Yeah.
I would, I've occasionally dabbled with some of the goalie equipment, and I saw they had the sets for Swayman and Elmark from the first half of the year, and at 5,000 a piece, that's a little steep. Be curious to see how long those sit.
Yeah, I mean, even as popular as those guys are, that's excessive level pricing. Because if Boston then does, like a lot of teams do, they do their equipment sale, and how many those goalies usually have 3 or 4 sets of pads, depending on how they switch and what their preferences are. If I can buy one for 1,000 or 1,200, that's close to retail. If you're going to wear them, but as a collector,
Right.
that's not awful. Those definitely will sit.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Bruins haven't done an equipment sale in quite some time. And I suspect with this new Authentics approach, I don't think you're going to see that. I think stuff will either sit in the pro shop or sit online until it's gone.
Interesting. We'll continue to watch it, especially with you guys going into the playoffs and hopefully a deep run for you. I
Can
mean,
only hope.
three of us sitting here, our teams have already teed up for the summer. So, Matt, I don't know what your team is that you follow enough to be if they're in or not.
They are in.
Oh, see, 2 out of 5 get to enjoy watching their team go. The other 2 of us wonder what everybody's handicap is. So, any final thoughts before we get out of here, gentlemen? Well, Frosty, since you're the big topic guest, I'll start with you.
Yeah, always a pleasure being part of this forum. So thanks for the invite. Hobby continues to be interesting, and the pricing, whether it's Bruins Authentics or whether it's anybody online, it just I keep shaking my head when I see some of these dollar figures for some of these jerseys these days, and wonder how anybody who's younger and just trying to get into the hobby could possibly get in.
That's
well said.
right. Very, yeah. And again, you have some team, if you don't care about the player and you just want a team jersey, like how the Wild are doing and others, and especially maybe with some of these equipment sales, you may have a good, cheap way to get started, but it's the maintaining when you're actually buying from the auctions and things like that, where you start running into issues. Matt, your first time on the show, I'll let you have the next spot here. Any final thoughts?
How much time do we have? Just kidding.
we-
In reference to what Frosty said, I agree wholeheartedly with it. There's only so many John Pazulos. There's only so many Frosties out there that can afford this stuff. And it's a double-edged sword because if you don't buy it, somebody else will, and you may never, ever see it again. But if you do buy it, and let's face it, we don't buy this stuff to resell and whatnot, but if you do buy it, you're stuck with it. You're not going to recoup $5,000 for Charlie Coyle, who I'd love to have, and I don't think that price is accurate, but I thought his prices were pretty high from what I saw compared to what you could get his Minnesota stuff for. And I don't even know what to say in regards to it. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. And to find a jersey with, I don't even know what you would call it. Oh, it has a small mark on it from walking past a locker stall. And don't worry, it's $1,000 per mark, Matt. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing. And going back to the Fanatics thing, I would like to think that the first year that Fanatics is in business, we're going to see not much change until they have to, like Reebok did when they got the Edge. We had that 1 year of, what is it, 06, 07, where it was just basically the word mark on the back. And then the next year with the Edge came out, and I remember Monique Manning came to the My Gray Expo and spoke about how great the Edge would be. And as we saw, what a disaster that was. And we went through Edge 1.0, and I think they were up to 4.0 by the end. And I would speculate that there's going to be growing pains with Fanatics, as we've already seen with the baseball. But again, I guess we have to wait and see. Is that too much to say?
No. That was excellent, Wade.
I mean, just watching this offseason and excited to see where everything goes, because pricing right now has just been just wild. I mean, I wish I had a better answer for the direction that things are going right now. But time will tell, and we'll see where things settle out. The Blues just did that auction with some vintage stuff. They had a Cujo jersey that looked like it had never been worn that sold for $5,000. I mean, I don't know anymore. I used to think I knew. Now I don't know.
Yeah, you're seeing this. I want to call out antique jerseys show up that teams have been hoarding, and we know the Blues have a lot of them. It's as you start putting it out in the market, and you see what the market will bear. The Kelly Chase, I think, sold for 12 or 1,300. It was a 99. There was a Pronger in there that sold for I think several $1,000s. So you don't know what's going to show up when anymore. And Frosty, guys like you they're going after the big Boston players and stuff at the prices you're doing. All of us can only sustain so much as something shows up. Okay, we've spent our budget on these things, and then the team throws out all this other. You're screwed.
Yeah, that's what we're fighting right now. The Blues have been doing. They just did the 96, 97 auction. They've been doing these weekly auctions with a couple jerseys here and there, and some big ones have popped up. Then tonight, the set 2 jerseys from the regular season just closed. When I was at the game the other day, they made some comment that they were going to have more of those vintage jersey auctions and stuff. And it gets to the point where who has enough money to continue to do it, especially with the direction the prices have been going, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes total sense.
I mean, that's, for me, it's one of those things where it's like those 96, 97s couldn't have kind of came at a worse time for me. And then the prices went for just kind of, some of them stayed kind of where I expected. Some of them didn't. There were some favorite player kind of things that happened in there. Some pretty rare Blues ones, like, Blues Craig McTavish. McTavish is an all-time NHL name with his Oilers connection. And,
he wore that jersey the last, I think it was the last year he played.
Yeah.
He was the only one in the entire league with no helmet.
Yeah, and there's some crazy, there was some crazy stuff there, and the cheapest ones of those went for $600 to $800, I think, which is about par what I expected. Tonight the Blues auction, actually, I got a little distracted, was closing as we were talking. And this is a non-playoff team, and there were some deals to be had, but the cheapest jersey, Sammy Blais at $375, Alexandrov, who probably won't be back next year, at $345. There were some cheap prices in that for a non-playoff team. But again, I think that's a reflection of the fact that the Blues are hammering the market with the drops on Rinkside, the give smarts. You know, I mean, at some point, even guys with deep pockets start to go, geez, I can't put another hit on the credit card.
Well, and with them being done too, we're hoping anytime for a date for the equipment sale.
Yeah, I mean,
Here
here we're going to the
away
summer
for that, especially this
so
year.
we just did set 2 home. They're going to do set 2 road, you'd assume. They have heritage jerseys. They also wore the retro jersey, so they've got at least 3 more sets. Assuming the players kept set, they went into set 3. So assuming the players typically have been getting set 3 home and away, those may pop up or may not. There was some speculation that the players had said they might want the retros, but even just looking at those, and you add in all these other auctions, it gets to be like, you know, wow, you know, where do I go?
We don't have unlimited budgets. And
no, I mean, my OnlyFans just isn't really cutting it these days.
I'm a subscriber.
You better.
You know, it's kind of like the old adage of that the kid going to the vending machine, and God, I'm dating myself and probably some of you guys as well. We'll use Frosty for example, because he's the face that's looking at me right now on the screen. Little Frosty comes at the vending machine. He's got $1.25 in his pocket. He can buy 2 of the Lifesavers packs in the vending machine with his $1.25. He's looking at that Kit Kat. He can get 1 of those and still have 25 cents left over, or he can go for the 2-banger Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And he's looking at that peanut butter cup real hard, but we're all that little kid.
Yeah.
You only have so much money, and when you use it all or don't use all of it and still have a little bit left over, you're still kind of screwed. And I don't know how we get new blood in this hobby, because we do need it. We desperately need it. And I don't know that many new people.
You know, I passed tonight. I won nothing in the auction, you know, because there was nothing there that was a must. And in the same sense, even though there were some good prices there, you know, there's so much other stuff that kind of is more important to me that I'm speculating is going to pop up. You know, I mean, what do? You know, it's a wild time in the hobby, and the prices just aren't making it affordable to you can't collect everything.
No, and I ended up not winning anything either. I was outbidding the last couple seconds and couldn't be that fast on my phone. So see, it's that multitasking stuff we do here, Wade.
Yeah.
So, and finally, Paul, to you, to give you kind of last words here of any thoughts before we wrap this one up.
Not too much really to cover. This past week, since we are Dirty Laundry Hockey / collecting podcast, the last Monday and Tuesday of the East for the NHL was just fabulous. The setup for all the permutations for that last playoff spot. Of course, my Red Wings, came close, but Washington, or the Flyers screwed that up for us. Not sure which one to blame, but it was fun having the season come down to that. As a Red Wings fan, we have not had meaningful games in 7, 8, 9 years. And it was a lot of fun going down the stretch. I mean, we won't talk about some things that happened during the regular season, and we will not blame the trash patch, even though that sponsored patch could be it. But it was just a lot of fun having meaningful games, and especially how the Wings came back and won both the games they needed to win. We needed a little bit of help from Washington, so
there's still meaningful games tonight. It is a pretty fun year that it's a meaningful game night, in games 80, 81, and 82. And, like we were talking about, my team's out, your team's out, but I'm a hockey fan. So, man, there's always going to be a team that catches my heartstrings. And, with the Blues out, there's certain teams I probably could never root for, but there are teams and certain players who I like and will always like and will root for. So, bring on the
Predators and Bruins are accepting applications, Wade.
Hey, do you guys think the NHL will ever go to that 1-game play-in? It's pretty exciting. I'm curious if they'll.
I don't like it. Because I think it negates some of the other trials and tribulations to that point. I've listened to some of the national podcasts on it, and they rip it up pretty good too, because they say it really will take away from the regular fight you get. And then it's a one and done. And
Yeah.
I
I think
mean,
the money loss would be too exponential as
I
well.
think the only
Yeah.
way that happens is, in my opinion on that, is it doesn't happen until this possible expansion of two more teams or whatever they're talking about in the next couple of years, and then I could see them doing it. But right now, I think everybody is fans are so used to the playoff push and these meaningful games at the end. It's kind of magic. I don't know if you mess with that magic, but
I would
it's
hate to see it. You finish 8th, you're in the playoffs. Say another team's like 7, 8 points behind you in 9th. They get a 1-game shot to get in. No, I mean the NHL used to have the 5-game series in round 1. It going to straight 7-game series. It's the best time of year. These games are so much fun, and I wish we get to enjoy it again soon. But
you know what? It's those things that, like, regardless if your team's in or not, it's just that energy, and everybody will sit down and watch the games. Like I said last week, I'll go to my rack of McKenna jerseys, find out which teams are still playing, and throw one on, so that I at least look like I fit in a little bit. But gentlemen, thank you for another great night of conversation. We've touched on a lot of different things. Tons of stuff going on. I say I got a couple interviews in the hopper and some other stuff, and as we keep having topics like this or guests, we'll continue to do them every week if people are available. Again, reminder: if you want the drink your face off stuff, reach out to Mitch. He's got t-shirts. He's got the awesome puck bottle openers. Please, wherever you listen to the show, like it, subscribe, give 5 stars, any of that kind of stuff. I continue to see upticks in subscribers on different things. We're climbing up, not far from being at 10,000 listens across everything. And we appreciate all the messages we get after you guys listen. And even if you want to critique something or say you guys should have covered this, or I'd rather have this stuff, put it out there. I mean, I don't consider it negative, because you're helping me plan for future shows. So I hope you guys continue to enjoy this. We always have fun doing it. It's a great night, and I love bringing this hobby more together. The next time, boys, we'll see you.